Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sandhya, co founder and Chief Security Officer at Siemba. We focus on preemptive exposure management, helping organizations identify, validate, and resolve risks before they ever become business impacting. Today, we have an exciting topic to discuss modern frameworks. We have all seen checklists, they're often noisy, slow us down, and can be every security or a compliance professional's worst nightmare. But there are teams out there that have solved this, operating at massive scale and achieving real actionable security outcomes. And we have with us today one such expert who has been working in and around this challenge at scale. And we are thrilled to have her share her insights today. So, joining me is Shatavisha Chakravorthy, Technical Program Manager at GoDaddy, who runs AppSec at massive scale. Shata, welcome. We are so glad to have you here.
It's an absolute pleasure, Sandhya. Looking
So
forward to the conversation.
great, great. So Shita, could you walk us through your AppSec journey and what do you feel is different about working in a high scale environment?
Okay, my AppSec journey. Okay, that's been an interesting one, Sandhya. I started with the basics like everyone else, breaking things safely, learning why they broke, and then convincing the teams that, fixing them is actually a good idea. Over time, I moved into more deeper stuff, offensive security, program management, where it's not just about finding the vulnerabilities, it's about building system that prevents the vulnerabilities from happening at scale. Working in high scale environment is a different ballgame altogether, definitely. Here things move fast, the blast radius is huge, and nothing stays small for long. You need to think in terms of automation, there's repeatability, making the security layers invisible yet efficient. If I need to put it smoothly, it might be from running a small cozy kitchen of household four people to suddenly being in charge of the head chef of of a restaurant that will serve maybe 10,000 hungry customers. I will need my speed. I will need my systems. I will need a lot of patience and probably some caffeine.
I love that analogy, Shata. That's fantastic. I mean, your journey really illustrates how AppSec evolves from technical curiosity to building scalable automated systems for the whole company. And for your analogy, it's spot on. So security at enterprise level is truly a different world. So thank you for breaking that down so early. Love that. So with thousands of findings and multiple engineering teams, where does friction typically come from? Is it noise? Is it ownership gaps, prioritization, or something else?
Mm, well, friction is actually a whole buffet, if I may say. There's always something on the menu. See, Sandhya, there are thousands of findings, multiple engineering teams, and in all of this, the biggest culprit is mostly the noise. Frankly, when everything looks critical, nothing will feel critical, and that's when the teams start getting tired and bored, and they lose their interest. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And then there are other things like you have ownership gaps. Every now and then I come across a mysterious findings that belong to someone, and that someone is always in some other team. It's like
My
this.
problem, not me.
Not me. It's basically the security version of musical chairs. So that's the ownership gap. What else? Yeah, I think there's prioritization. See, every team believes that their roadmap is always full, and maybe they're not even wrong. But for me as a TPM, trying to squeeze in security can feel like trying to put in an extra suitcase into the overhead bin. Can I do it? Yes, of course. But will it need some pushing? Definitely. So, yeah, I mean, it's a mix of noise, of unclear ownership, and an eternal balance of managing the priorities. All of that, and probably a little bit of this isn't really breaking today. Can we look at it tomorrow? That's always there.
Great points, great analogy. You're right. They really do make up the core of friction areas in large organizations. And a lot of these challenges, right, tie back to the frameworks themselves, especially when they are, not built for scale. Um, so let's look at why frameworks start to break. Have you seen any breakthroughs in modern frameworks that actually like move the needle?
Well, frameworks are like that old suitcase you have at home and you keep trying to put more and more stuff into before your vacation. It'll work great at first, but once you start scaling, the zipper will suddenly scream off and come away. So that's what frameworks are. And like you asked, what are the reasons? I would say they are just built for ideal scenarios, not the beautiful chaos of real engineering. See, Sandhya, things really look neat on a whiteboard. But at scale, this neatness is a luxury. And most of the frameworks that I came across always assume some linear growth. But in a high scale environment, findings will not grow linearly, they'll just multiply. What worked for me at 50 services will absolutely crumble when the services go to 5,000. And yeah, that's when the growth will not be as per the framework, or the framework will not adapt to the growth. And more often than not, I see that the frameworks try to focus on control rather than adaptability. And by focusing on control, actually, they age out much faster. And they can't evolve with the tech stack, the org structure, the business speed, all of that. When that happens, that's when the frameworks start breaking. And in my experience, when frameworks start breaking, it is rarely because the people are not trying. No, it's simply because the framework was built for using tools that are, for a much simpler, smaller world. The breakthroughs that I love, if I have to talk about them, uh, all of them have one thing in common. They don't treat security like it's a whole different planet. And coming, when they stop doing that, they come up as modern frameworks. These are the ones that actually move the needle. They bake into security, they become a part of it, part of the flow, instead of bolting it at some point. Today, if you look at the, the where we stand today, shift left is old news. That's not working anymore. What's working today is shift smart. And by this, I mean using automation, using context, risk scoring, all of that to cut out the noise and surface what actually matters. When my engineers see, fewer and more clearer, more contextual findings, they're happier and they're more likely to work on those findings. Uh, you know, what I love about successful frameworks today is that all of them are engineering owned security. These are the frameworks that directly plug into the CI/CD pipeline, pull in the architectural context, map out the ownership, the required data automatically. And these are the game changers. With this, I can actually turn the who owns this scavenger hunt into a non event. So that mysterious Mr. Somebody is gone. So yeah, I think that's about it. All of these frameworks are very, very feedback driven. They are not the static rule books of the olden times. These are the ones that evolve on how teams work, what actually gets fixed, and where things break again and again. It's like the framework finally becomes a teammate to my team instead of being that textbook which everyone avoids. And these are those breakthroughs that genuinely move the needle. There's less friction, more clarity, and security that works with us instead of around engineering.
I love that. Shift left is old news, and what's working is, to shift smart. I love that. And also your focus on automation, ownership, feedback driven framework. That I think is valuable and really highlights, what modern AppSec, if done right, looks like. Thank you for that. So moving on, like when building your AppSec framework, how did you decide between developing your own testing tool versus buying a commercial solution? I know there are trade-offs, but what matters to you most?
Well, that universal debate between buy versus build.
Right,
It's like
right.
it's like deciding whether I should be cooking at home today or ordering something in. It's cooking will give me that control, the customization, and some bragging rights. But it also takes my time, my talent, and a lot of cleaning after that.
We will do that. We all hate that.
We all hate that. Buying will be quick, buying will be convenient. But then again, if I'm buying, I'm stuck with whatever it's on the menu. And the trade-offs that matter the most to me are speed, scalability, and how well the tool is placed within my ecosystem. See, if
Hmm.
I need something that is deeply tailored, like for example, a check, that understood my architecture, or something that knows my deployment patterns, building makes sense to me. But if the market already has a mature tool that can do 80% of what is expected, I mean, what is expected on day one, because again, the expectations keep changing. But if something can do 80% of what is expected on day one, buying will save me months of engineering cycles. So, in that debate between buy versus build, I think I prefer looking at long term care and feeding as well. Homegrown tools are often, you build them. Yeah, it's important you build them. But you need to remember that these need your constant love in the form of your updates, in the form of your tuning, there's bug fixes, all of that. Commercial tools mostly come up with, their own support team. And sometimes to me, that is worth more than the tech itself. So the decision essentially comes to this: build when the gap is strategic and unique to us, buy when the speed and maturity matter the most. That's the one liner, and every now and then you mix the two and call it a balanced diet.
I think that was spot on as well. We love the concept of building your own tool, but here's another problem that you have in the security world. It's like a revolving door. Um, it's hard to hold on to security professionals. They are always finding a new job, moving, and then you're left with this knowledge that he or she takes along. So I think finding that right balance where there are some tools that you want to build in-house and make some strategic investment on market tools that probably simplifies your complex decision making. So that was spot on. So what do you think is missing in most of these tools or frameworks? What's missing today?
What's missing in the frameworks? Honestly, it would be context and empathy, Sandhya. If you look
Hmm.
at these tools that are available, a lot of them are awesome at finding, at coming up with findings, best of findings. But many of them are just terrible at understanding the environment those findings live in.
Very true.
So what happens is they don't know your architecture, your ownership level, your deployment patterns, or even your simple business priorities. And as a result, what they do is they generate a ton of output, but very little of that output has clarity.
Hmm.
Uh, I think another big gap is usability. Many of the frameworks are built like rule books and not really products. These kind of, I don't know how to put it, they expect the developers to adapt to them instead of coming halfway and meeting them where they work.
Hmm.
So that works with small teams at small scale, but the moment you scale up, these will fall apart. So frankly, what's missing isn't more rules. It is smarter context, better integration, and frameworks that actually makes the life easier for the engineering instead of making it more complex and heavier.
So true. Smarter context and better integration. Yes, that speaking of which, what are you must have seen so many frameworks, across startups and enterprises. Um, are they truly, providing that smarter context and better integration that you were talking about? Or, as you are, rolling out a framework into your organization, what are the early signs or red flags uh, that you catch right away?
In an ideal world, definitely, Sunday, I would love it when everything falls into place and there are no hiccups. But
We
more
know
often,
that never happens.
it never happens. And more often than not, we see a lot of red flags. And I'll tell you, every time a framework breaks, long before that, way before something formally breaks, there are warning signs.
Hmm.
And to me, the first and the biggest red flag is when the team, slowly and quietly starts bypassing the process,
Pushing them up. Yeah.
pushing them away. So I think a quick check would be, if I realize that the engineers are sending me DM over Slack or Zoom, instead of following the framework laid out, that's my hint. The experience is either too slow or it's too heavy. Uh, another sign is where the findings pile up, but the fixes don't. See,
Hmm.
if the backlog keeps growing like a house plan that I forgot to cut, it usually means the framework is generating more noise and less value. And that's when I know that the framework that I came up with is, not aligned with how the team is actually working.
Hmm.
And then there's this version of the framework that becomes tribal knowledge, where maybe one or two people in the team really know how it works, and everyone else starts treating it like a something mysterious. I'm in trouble because you never know when those two people leave. You know, you cannot afford that level of single point of failure.
Very true.
I mean, and yeah, I think another important red flag is when I, as a TPM, spend more time explaining why the framework exists than the team actually exists using it. So that's when I know the systems are not keeping up, and that's the go-to sign that you need to rethink it. You simplify, you automate, or if nothing works, just throw out the old rule book and build something that fits in the organization, how the organization is today.
Mhm.
And that's why it's actually important for me as a TPM to frequently evaluate the frameworks, especially in the big, fast-moving environments. The continuous evaluation is important. I need to ask myself questions. Does this framework scale with reality? Not something in theory and in nice whiteboards, but with messy organizational structures, shifting ownerships, thousands of services. If it breaks the moment I stress test something, it's not even a framework. I can barely call it a prototype.
Hmm.
A good framework is something that should make my life easier, my decisions easier. It should clear the priorities, clean the workflow, have less steps. Simple as that. Just reduce the steps. If a developer in my team needs a map just to follow a framework, the framework should not work. And if you look at some of the best security frameworks, they are the ones that evolve with the tech stack. The threat landscape, the organization, all of that is considered. And if a framework hasn't really changed in the last 1 year, it's probably already obsolete. You know, you a framework is not built for longevity without making any changes. It should not be something that just looks good on a slide deck.
Absolutely. I know the moment a framework becomes heavy, noisy, and you have to kind of force people to follow it, it's falling apart. I mean, you summarized that perfectly. I mean, given these challenges, from my personal experience, what I would suggest is to focus on frameworks that are practical, adaptable, and actionable, right? I mean, build for the real world, prioritize issues by actual risk, automate wherever necessary to reduce friction, and make sure these insights that you provide are clear and usable, so that security also scales responsibly along with the team. And at Simba we follow these principles in everything we build, integrating automated testing, contextual risk prioritization. I mean, Shata, you will be surprised how many of our customer keep asking for that, like, I don't want to, and you brought that up in the beginning, right? Like, don't tell me everything is high risk, everything is a priority, then nothing is, that contextual risk prioritization and actionable insights. And teams also feel very empowered, okay, I am actually solving a problem and I know exactly how to do it because there is this actionable insights that are fit into the workflow, and it makes security more, practical and, to your point, effective at scale.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with this, Sandhya. See, practical and adaptable frameworks are the only things that's going to survive the real world engineering. And I personally love how, Simba is leaning towards contextual insights and automation. It's exactly the kind of direction that helps the team scale uh, and grow security without really slowing down the entire thing.
Talking about GoDaddy, right? I mean, huge organization. What's the hidden cost of sticking, with the wrong framework, especially for too long?
So imagine this, you have a tiny umbrella and it's pouring cats and dogs, and you're out in the rain. You have an umbrella in your hand, but you're still soaked. That's exactly what happens when you stick around with the wrong framework and you're operating in GoDaddy scale. The hidden costs definitely will show up. It may be in the form of friction, there may be noise, missed
Mhm.
opportunities, definitely, slower teams, all of that. So instead of reducing risk, everyone around you will, spend time managing exceptions and workarounds. And the longer you hold on, the more you pay in burnout and lost momentum.
That's true. It's true. And often when frameworks struggle, testing struggles as well. So let's talk about how testing is evolving.
Oh, yes. I mean, testing is the first to feel the cracks. The good news is it's evolving fast. We have moved from, scan everything and pray to a much more smarter, context aware testing that actually understands the app. It understands the architectures, the story behind the risk, all of that. Modern testing, if you look at it, leans more on automation. There's tighter integration with CI/CD pipelines. The engineers get to act fast. There's better signal to noise, more actionable results rather than the huge PDF books you give around.
Right,
Uh,
right.
it's about doing more testing, efficiently, the right type of testing, and getting to it at the right point in the pipeline.
Absolutely. I always wonder, does anyone read those huge PDFs that you hand out to these organizations? Do they actually do that? Yeah. So yeah, testing is critical, and it's usually where the cracks show up, right? And you need to bring that discipline in testing, and it has, we are in a good space, I would say. I mean, we have moved from, to your point, like scan everything and pray, to a very, very context aware testing, and where you understand the app, you understand the architecture, everything that goes along with it. So I mean, we have to kind of keep up with the times, right? Modern testing is all about automation, clean signals, and kind of integrating with your CI/CD pipeline. You just don't keep testing, and just put a check mark saying that okay, we have tested. But you want to make sure that you're doing the right test at the right point of time, especially in the CI/CD pipeline. So, moving on, how do you balance this, traditional yearly, bi-yearly pen testing with a more continuous approach? Because that's what the modern app, because you're constantly, clearing release after release. So there is the shift in the market from going to, a traditional one-time pen testing to a continuous approach. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, of course, there is cost associated with that, but from a effectiveness standpoint, what are your thoughts? Is it complementary? Is it overlapping? What do you think?
Uh, I would say, okay, for traditional pen test is similar to my workouts. There's a deep, painful leg day, and continuous testing is something that's the everyday steps, the 10K steps that I'd hit. That pen test, the traditional pen test, it gives me that intense point in time reality check. So that way I can catch the weird, creative stuff that humans are actually great at finding. But
Right.
they're too rare and definitely too slow. to rely on alone in today's fast-paced environment. Continuous testing is the heartbeat. It keeps me honest, catches regression, and makes sure that my team is not shipping something that's silly at 3 a.m. in the morning. So for me, the two testing that you mentioned are absolutely complementary. Pen tests will set the boundaries, the traditional pen tests, they set the boundaries. The continuous testing gives me the ability to raise the floor high. The first
Mhm.
tells me where I can fall, the second stops me from tripping in the first place.
Right. Kind of like this everyday cleaning that you do, and then that one time spring clean, that,
Exactly.
where you kind of want to get to every nook and corner and, clean things up. That makes sense. Um, I also want to touch on something every AppSec team feels, the tooling gaps, scanners that just don't agree, noisy findings, and prioritizations that, that truly just doesn't scale. So from your experience, where do you think this biggest gap actually is? Why is prioritization still so hard at scale? I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and um, the day I started as an intern and to this day as a CISO, it's the same problems that keep coming up. um, Prioritization, everything is critical, I don't know where to look at. So it's like this nagging problem that keeps coming up. um, why is that? Where is the gap?
Uh, I don't know. Tooling apps are like the universal AppSec experience. We've all
Mm.
had scanners that argue with each other like siblings, and we're all frustrated with those.
Right,
So
right.
the biggest gaps show up when the tools try to act smart without even understanding my tech stack. And that's when I find so many noisy findings, duplicate alerts, and edge cases that no scanner can literally figure out.
Right.
So, the real pain is prioritization. At scale, it is no more about what is vulnerable. It is
Mm.
where, who owns it, how much of it really matters. If the tools cannot pull in the architectural context, exploitability, business impact, all of this, everything looks urgent. And like we discussed, when everything is a P1, nothing is a P1. So nothing will get fixed. In today's world, the hardest part isn't really finding issues. It's basically going backwards and connecting the dots in a way that makes sense. That makes sense not just for me, but for the thousands of services and the hundreds of teams involved. And
Right.
that is why even today, like you mentioned, prioritization at scale is still a huge challenge. It's like solving a puzzle without having a picture in the box.
Love that analogy. But with this AI trend, you know, I mean, we have to talk about it. I guess webinar doesn't feel complete if we don't bring AI. So with that coming up, do you see that it is providing a lot of help in validation and prioritization? Um, I mean, of course, it comes with its own bag of troubles. Like, what guardrails do teams need so AI actually reduces noise instead of creating more? How do you feel about AI?
Sandhya, AI is actually amazing until it starts, hallucinating vulnerabilities that you've never heard of.
Right.
So, yeah, that's when the guardrails matter a lot. First, you need strong training data set. See, if the AI itself is learning from something that's noisy or inconsistent findings, it'll just amplify the chaos and make all our lives more difficult. Then you need the human in the loop moments. Not for every
Mm.
small thing, definitely, but for spot checks like, edge cases or anything that the AI marks as high risk. Having the human in the loop keeps the system honest. Uh, and probably if the AI can't explain why it flagged down something, engineers won't trust it. That is for sure. And trust is half the battle in AppSec. So, because of this, transparency and AI, the ownership with AI is actually important. What else? I think integration with my architecture and my ownership data is again another important thing that AI needs to look at. The AI is useful to me only when it understands the context. Otherwise, I have 100 alerts today, I'll just have 1,000 more with AI.
More.
It's just adding more alerts to an already overcrowded party, which we are struggling with. So,
Right, right.
with the correct guardrails involved, AI becomes a noise reducer. Without them, it's just the annoying loud guest.
Another loud guess. Yeah, love that perspective. So, where do you think AI can make the biggest impact in the real world AppSec?
Uh, at the risk of repeating myself, I think the biggest win from AI isn't in finding more issues. It is in
Hmm.
helping us dealing with the mountain of issues that we already have.
Right.
And in this context, validation is a huge one. If AI can tell me, relax, these are 5 alerts and these are actually the same bug, that's life changing for me. AI can also shine in the context building. So, for example, pulling ownerships, finding that anonymous Mr. Someone,
Hmm.
that's when AI can come into the picture. It can help in architecture details. It can help talk about exploitability, about business impact, all of that. Put it in one place so that I don't have to go about playing detective every day.
Right.
That's when the prioritization becomes sane, Sandhya.
So you're basically saying leverage AI to make my life better, but not find more and more issues that are not truly an issue and just adding more to the mess.
Exactly. So as AI, you need as AI, it needs to help my engineers fix things better. Some things like AI generated repo steps, code suggestion, even mini fixes can give teams a starting point instead of a headache. So, like you mentioned, it's just about asking AppSec to remove flood of alerts and give me actionable items. That's it.
Right, right. But do you, with all this AI driven engineering and, everything is so fast moving, do you think the frameworks are actually keeping up, or do we have to just erase it all and build something brand new?
Well, if you look at a lot of frameworks that are still in use today, it looks like we're trying to make a flip phone act like a smartphone. You have your cloud native and AI driven engineering moving at great speed, making tremendous progress. But the frameworks that they are based on were designed for much slower monolithic systems. Definitely, some parts are keeping up. Like you have automation, CI/CD integration, risk-based testing, all good. But there are plenty of places that rely on old assumptions, long
Hmm.
release cycles, static controls, frameworks that expect engineers to stop everything and follow a rigid process. All of that doesn't just fly in a modern environment. So, I don't know. Yes, we are making progress, but we are still dragging some legacy thinking behind us.
Hmm.
And
True.
probably standing at the end of 2025 today, I feel the real shift is from making that switch from control everything to adapt consistently.
Makes
And
sense.
frameworks that, evolve with the stack win. Frameworks that still cling to the old playbook, it'll get left behind today or tomorrow.
So 2025 and beyond, what matters most? Is it faster scan or accurate results or easier remediation?
Oh, if I have to pick one, it's definitely going to be easier remediations all the time.
Hmm.
Faster scans are great. More accurate results are amazing. But none of it will move the needle even a bit if the fixes still take forever. When the teams can understand, reproduce, and fix an issue quickly, everything upstream becomes more valuable. Faster scans help me find problems. Easier remediations will actually make the impact by allowing me to get rid of the problems. And at scale, that's the only superpower that'll make the whole ecosystem better. So yeah.
So, and also you want your team to feel empowered, like, okay, I'm actually contributing, I'm fixing a problem. Okay, I had this pile of vulnerabilities to fix and I actually got rid of 10 top ones, so there is that satisfaction that comes along with it, like I was useful today. I mean, I feel that is so much more important. Everything is becoming so AI and robotic these days. There is a satisfaction that comes with it when you're actually fixing a problem, especially at work, which can be so monotonous. Clock in at 9, get out at 5. Um, I feel, when you are actually solving a problem, it kind of adds value more than just fixing the problem, but adds value to the engineer as well. Like I did something that I at least think that that's very important.
Totally agree with you on that. At the
Yeah.
end of
So,
the day, that's what makes you sleep.
right, right. I mean, you want to feel, valued. Okay, I did something useful at the end of the day. Uh, so now that you have, seen what actually work and the expectations, what do you think is going to bridge this gap between AppSec expectations and how developers work, especially a fast-moving team? Because this is one constant problem, right? Like security team and AppSec team expectation mismatch. So how do you think we can close this gap?
Uh, I don't know. Come to think of it, the real magic really happens when, the abstract stops acting like a separate checkpoint and kind of starts behaving like a teammate.
Hmm.
If I look back, some of the biggest wins that I've seen have come from meeting the developers exactly where they are. This means security checks in their CI/CD pipeline, fixes in their IDE, context in their PRs. Basically, no extra portals, no treasure hunt, going where they are instead of asking them to come to me.
Right. Right.
I think another game changer is shrinking the ask. Instead of handling a large, giant PDF textbook of please fix this, give
So no one.
again, exactly. So give them three or four high valuable issues with very clear retrospects and fixed guidance. Fast moving teams love clarity. No one loves the complexity. And honestly, I don't know, the biggest boost comes from relationships. If as an AppSec, as an AppSec team, I move early, I show up, answer questions quickly, celebrate wins instead of just calling out gaps and just putting more work on the devs. The dev team also start putting security in instead of pushing it around. And in a high velocity environment, in a fast paced world, culture and convenience will beat the control every single time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't go with a baseball bat. AppSec team can't do that. You got to fix it. They have to, there should be a common ground where they meet and make it productive. I mean, thank you, Shata. That was insightful. I know I need to keep a check on time. So I was told to do a quick rapid fire round. So I have some questions with me. Okay, let me just pull it up. Okay, and you can't think much. It has to be quick. Okay, it's a rapid fire round. All right, ready?
Let's try.
One inefficiency in frameworks you would fix instantly.
Stop making everything a P0 or P1.
Okay. What's one thing AppSec teams overcomplicate?
Explanations. Sometimes devs just want the three-line version, not your thesis.
Right, right, right. And biggest opportunity for innovation in AppSec testing.
Smarter noise reduction.
And your number one rule for working with fast moving dev teams.
Be useful or be invisible, just don't be a blocker.
Don't be a blocker. I love that. So we have to take this question. So one advice for women entering security. Can you believe 2025? I'm still asking this question. So one advice.
I mean, take up your space. Your voice is needed. Your perspective is your strength.
Great. If you join a team with zero AppSec, what would you evaluate in week one?
Where are the risks? Who are the influences? And which of the files are real and which of it is just, smoke?
Okay, that was not one word, but I will still take it. Awesome, Shata. Let me just see if there are some questions from our participants. Guess who have joined us? I see one. What are some tools that make your life easy?
Uh, of course, there's the usual PM tools. There's Jira, there's ServiceNow, but The one that makes my life easiest is Enterprise Copilot. Without it, I would not survive. With the volume of work and the fast-paced environment we are moving on, it becomes very important to summarize meetings, to look up my conversations with people, and basically make my life a lot more organized. Copilot all the way.
I couldn't agree more. And as a CISO, I love these AI note taking tools. I mean, they do such a wonderful job because every minute in the day, you are kind of jumping from one meeting to the other, and there's only so much mind space, right? And I see tremendous value in these kind of tools where they take the notes very efficiently. I mean, I love that. So on that note, thank you so much, Shata, and thanks to everyone who joined us today. I think the takeaway is frameworks only work when they adapt to the speed and the realities of engineering. And you cannot force engineering team to adapt to a framework. It just has to be intuitive and just easy to gobble up. And especially with this cloud native architectures and AI coming in and reshaping exactly how these applications are built, we have to build frameworks as well as this testing approaches that actually reduce the noise, create some clarity and really help teams to kind of integrate security, especially at scale. Did I summarize that well, Shata? Would you like to add something?
Absolutely, you did. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk with you today. And I just want to add one thing. AppSec works best when it feels like a partnership and not policing. If we keep building frameworks that makes the lives of our engineers easier instead of making it heavier, that's when security becomes something that teams want to adopt and not something that they have to. And when that is the approach, that's where the magic happens.
Awesome. Thank you, Shata. And before we close, a quick reminder, the full recording of this session will be sent to you. If you'd like to dive into other topics, feel free to reach out to us. We are always happy to, continue the conversation. Thanks everyone for joining in. See you in the next one.